Welcome to Making Light. Julie Hurt and Kate Foggo are soul-level intuitives and animal communicators, and this show is about us sharing our experiences in the hope that it may help others along their path. So let's go make some light. Hi everybody, I'm Kate Foggo, this is Julie Hurt, and together we are Making Light, and I've been sitting here while Julie has primped herself up for the last 20 minutes. And I'm sitting here in yesterday's clothes. And every time Julie says I need to do my hair, I'm like, oh fuck. And then she goes, puts a lipstick on. I'm sitting there going, should I get up? Should I change my shirt? I'm wearing the same clothes I've worn for about a week. So if that's what you're into, I suggest you look at Julie. If you don't give a fuck or we're on podcast, welcome. That's so funny because I nearly went and put makeup on. I thought, oh, really? Okay, Julie, so much. We've already chatted in between other things. In the back here is we've just looked it up, Chimera or grotesque. He was actually made by my friends. I have a friend who has a house in Dunoon, and her roofer made it for her, but she doesn't like it. I don't imagine he'll watch it, so I don't imagine he'll be upset. But I love it.
I do too.
I prefer him when he's turning around, but Julie may be turning around. We ought to name him actually.
Yes.
I prefer him when he's like that, but it's a bit freaky because a grotesque, as we discovered when we looked it up, is one that has water coming out. Gargoyle is one that has water coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
So where we had decided on a subject before we went off on several tangents, and that was, and we'll come back to Julie falling over. Julie, would you like to explain?
Yes.
What it is that you wanted to talk about?
Yes. Between the lawnmowers that had kicked in outside and something else, I was like, what? I couldn't hear you. Okay. So I meant to grab the cover of the book and I'm not going to get up now. So I'm reading this wonderful book called On Our Best Behavior by Elise Loehnen. Is it wonderful? I'm going to pause at the word wonderful. It's very thought-provoking. Wonderful means to me like happiness and roses. And this is like, it's very well done. It makes me really think. So anyway, what she does is as I've talked about this probably before, she takes the 7 deadly sins as a framework to show how women in particular have been oppressed and suppressed throughout the centuries. It's an uplifting read. No, really.
It doesn't sound very uplifting.
No, it's like I said, it's eye-opening, and her intent, I believe, is to like get us to see things, right? So we can clear and uplift ourselves and whatnot. So anyway, so I was reading the chapter on pride, which is the second sin that she discusses. I'm currently on gluttony, Kate, which wanted to talk about diet at some point. So we're going to come back to gluttony because it's super interesting. It's all super interesting. So anyway, so she was talking about pride and how we're taught, particularly as women, not to like own who we are, what we do, accomplishments, all that stuff. And it comes at us from a variety of different ways. And one thing that happens is, well, if you can act more like a guy, then you're welcomed into the boardroom. That's one thing. Or we do a million different things, which was also appeared in the chapter on sloth. We do a million different things to make, When you say you connect like a guy and welcomes you into the boardroom, men don't like ballsy women either, though. No, I know, this is the double-edged. Everything that happens because of this, everything becomes a double-edged sword because, thank you for that redirect, because we're never able to be who we actually are. If we could just be who we actually are, then we could stop apologizing for ourselves. Exactly. We would stop apologizing for ourselves. We would be able, pride, her at one level, her argument is on all of these sins. First of all, they were made up by humans. Second of all, so there's that. Second of all, they're not necessarily bad in and of themselves if you understand exactly what they're meant to be. So to have pride in your own work and who you are and what you do isn't a thing. And when we have pride in ourselves, and I could almost equate it to raising our vibration. When we raise our vibrations and focus on taking care of ourselves, the ripple effects go out and we end up helping everybody else. So the conversation there's a lot going on in every single chapter, but this one little aspect of pride that caught my attention was really understanding who I am. Who are each one of us, but for me, who I am. And I'm thinking, I don't even know if I really know who I am. And so I was telling you that Monday I had like a lower energy day. I didn't really feel like doing a whole lot. And my guides have been lately like telling me just do nothing, because usually I'm doing something, whether I'm working on my business, I'm taking care of Lucas, I'm taking care of my husband, I'm taking care of the house, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading books, I'm always doing something, never just sitting. So lately they've been trying to get me to do that. It's really, really, really hard.
But is it not like meditating?
It is probably meditating, because because I find when I do meditations,
Because otherwise you sit and thinking, and that's not doing nothing either.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I try to meditate, I do find that it's after some point pretty quickly my mind wanders, and I know like, oh look, there's a thought, and recognize the thought and detach from the thought, and then another thought pops up. It's hard. So anyway, we have a colleague who does light language, and so she did a little light language session, not little, she did a light language session on me on Monday afternoon.
We can mention her, can't we, and put a link in for her?
Lincoln, yeah, the fabulous Monica Klein.
Woo, Monica MC
Intuitive.
He's messaged me actually because about the lost dog, and I'm itching to read it, but I wouldn't be that rude.
Oh, it's a lost dog? I thought it was a lost cat.
Lost cat, apologies.
And it's okay. I'm just checking.
Very lost. We don't know what it is.
So lost. So anyway, she was saying if she was doing the light language session about connecting to my inner self, and then she said, what does that feel like? And I could feel fear, and I could feel resistance to it. So since then I've just been trying to do that more, because for me,
what more?
Connect more to my true self, inner self. And also she calls it, for me, it's also connecting to the heart center, which I was telling you too, like she had done a different session on me. And the first thing she said is, okay, let's move to the heart center. And I swear to God, it was like, boom, right. And I could feel it go right here. And it felt very different for me than I've ever felt that before. So all of that is just like, there's a whole bunch of shifting going on, and it's a little scary. And I'm just going to say that it's a little scary. Even though we're intuitive and we have all this, training and all this other stuff, it's still being human. It's kind of scary to.
So what is being scary? The shifting?
No, the really
Who am I?
Say what?
The who am I?
Yeah. Really trying to connect with that.
So there's a Eckhart Tolle exercise, which I told one of my friends who was a mother, and she actually got quite angry about it. But there's an Eckhart Tolle exercise where you say, I am not a woman, I am not a friend, I am not a lover, I am not a mother, like all the things that you think you are, I am not. And this is what my friend got angry about, because she was a mother. She didn't like saying, I am not a mother. But the point is, they are all roles.
Right.
They're not you. And if you take all that away, who are you?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think, and I haven't really thought about it in that much depth. I mean, I have over the years, but not that specifically, is I think we get overwhelmed because we think what we are has to be something grand, something dramatic, something special. like the person, famous people, Nobel Peace Prize winners, things like that, and actually the essence of who you are is quite simply you at your best.
Yeah.
You're just love, and I don't think it's anything grander than that. I don't think there is anything grander than that, but we're still looking for it in terms of a role, or what that would achieve, or what it's contributing to the world, instead of, well, no, what am I? And I don't I don't know what I am. When I grow up, I'd like to be
Yeah.
I think when I think about it, I think of little Kate before, and actually in Eva's course that I'm doing at the moment, she had this bit of try to think back to, and I don't, because I don't have memories of that long ago, but trying to think back to an age before you had learned that you needed to be a certain way for acceptance. So before you'd got in trouble for anything, before you'd started to understand, that if I do things this way, they're nice to me. If I do that, they're not nice to me. All of that. I have no reference that far back. But if you could imagine that, and it's interesting because that quote, let me just find it again, that you sent me when you were talking about this, is the less you need to be to the world, the more you can be to yourself. And that's exactly it. Because all this conditioning and layering that comes on is all about placing yourself in a world that's more attractive to other people. To be safe, to be liked, to be wanted, to be loved, all those things. Whereas if you just inherently said, well, I am who I am and I know that I'm loved, who would you be? I don't know if anyone else can answer that. You're looking very pensive, Julie.
I am very pensive. Yeah, this is, yeah. So, because so many things popped in my head. That being special and unique, like those are, as the divine having a human experience, each one of us is special and unique. But I understand the words you were using was more like how human beings define special and unique, which can be more along the lines of celebrity or whatever, that type of stuff.
Yeah, that we need to do something really grand in order to be special.
Yeah. The what was the other thing? Oh, shoot. The other thing that when I was working on this morning, I was curious if we, as intuitive coaches, we work with the 4 negative beliefs, right? So not good enough, not lovable, not safe, secure, and protected, and not worthy. Do they all, can they start with the same point? I mean, I know like in coaching sessions, we can look at different instances, but I wonder if they all, to some degree, don't start at one.
I think they basically all negative beliefs are fear.
Yeah. Yes.
I think they help us to understand the trends. But what I discovered in group coaching was that, because not worthy, very strong for me, not good enough, hugely strong for me, not safe, supported, and protected, less so, but I can see a lot of that, as you said, it depends on what part of my life I'm looking at. But I would say overwhelmingly unworthy. And then what the guide said was that certainly they're not good enough and they're not worthy are actually workarounds for being unlovable, feeling unlovable. So if you feel that you are unlovable, it's your way of going, well, I must be why am I unloved? Oh, it's because I'm not worthy. Oh, it's because I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So
well, because there's to me, so much of this goes back to this one instance, and I can see how things started there, which was when when I started to have to be peacemaker to a degree, to make sure everybody in the household felt good about everything. And then when I would do that outwardly, then I would actually also get laughed at. So if I were to show people love, I remember handing out Valentines in kindergarten. Did I tell you this story already? I feel like I've said this story.
You might have done. Go on.
And everybody, I made sure I handed it. Everybody had boxes to put them in, but I actually walked up and handed it to every kid and then said something nice. And I remember being what I thought I was being kind of ridiculed by my teacher and my mom. You don't have to do that, Julie. Just put it in their box. Just put it in their box. You don't have to do that. But I wanted to do that. And that sticks. I've always remembered that. So
see, that's me. That's Julie. That's the real Julie.
Yeah.
That's who you are. You wanted to look someone in the eye, that makes me want to cry, and say, you know, I value you. That's the real you.
Yeah.
And then they come steaming in with their fucking bright ideas about, no, do it different.
Yeah.
Is that not the sweetest thing in the world that you could do for anyone? Ever? Even now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I just realized, like, I have this, like, when we walk on the trails here, nobody ever looks at you and says hi. And I find that odd. Whereas when we lived in Alaska, you'd be on a trail, and probably because there really wouldn't be anybody else on the trail, when you'd see another person, you'd be like, hi, hey, there's a moose up ahead. Hey, watch out, oh, your dog, all the, this great stuff. And people just don't do this. They all have AirPods on and they walk right past. I mean, they walk like right past you. They don't even make eye contact. It's like they're doing this. Like they do everything to avoid you. And I'm like, just hi, how are you? So I don't know. I just was curious. I don't know. I'm
so
just
the real you is, and what's interesting is that book, One Between the Worlds, was that Journey of Souls?
Yeah. Wait, yes, a journey of souls between, when they
that, because I sort of assumed that between lives, if we revert to unconditional love dust or whatever it is, that we don't really have much of a personality, because I sort of think of the personality as an egoic thing, but actually it's not, because that was very clear when we read that book, that even between lives people have a very distinct personality, and that's very interesting, isn't it? It just shows that is no good or bad, it's just people are different. Where am I going with this? But I can't remember where I'm going with this, but that's essentially it. Who you are before you started amending and adapting your behavior. That's you. That's the true you. And I think that's beautiful. And that's why they say to, imagine that you're like a child. I mean, we can't, but imagine you're like a child before your parents got to you.
Yeah. So then the reason why, so when I was working with Monica and she was saying, be more like that, and that's where I could feel the fear rising up. And so then I sat with that outside of the conversation with Monica. And I remembered that scene from when I was in kindergarten. And then there was another time too, and I can't remember what it was, but I just remember feeling like remembering another scene where I did something in the same type of way. And then, but being like ridiculed or shut down or like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, and I'm just remembering too, even at my last advertising job, I was also kind of mocked for caring so much. Don't care, because it's, got to be about the money and not even though when you care, actually the money actually comes even more. I've always found. But anyway, so I just remember. Go ahead.
That's where the fear comes from.
Yeah.
If you're being told by other people that you being you is a bad thing and you're going to get ridiculed or someone's going to make fun of you, then you're scared of being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't fit in anymore. You've trampled on some invisible rules that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And this is what they call domestication of humans. is that you start adapting and amending the way you behave in order to please people instead of being true to what you want. And this idea also that really irritates me, that if you didn't have rules, it would all just be hooligans. It's like, no, the essence of people doesn't change. You don't suddenly become a complete asshole just because, you don't need people to tell you what's right and wrong. We inherently know that.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we then learn behavior of other people that are basically saying, don't do it that way, do it this way because whatever reason. And then and then we get confused about who we are and what we represent. Whereas little Julie, say, handing a card to somebody that you wanted them to know it had come from you and wanted them to know that something nice, to say something nice to them, that's you. And then you're told that's not the right way to behave.
Yeah.
How confusing is that?
Yeah, that is what it was, really confusing.
Or you're taught that if you do that, people will take advantage of you and that you're going to be, you're not safe. So there's a lot of reasons why people stop behaving the way they want to, because they're told, they're either ridiculed or they're told it's not safe, or they're told that behavior, as children, we're being told or shown basically all the time that certain behavior is not welcome. So you just stop doing it and hiding it. And then we become these great fucked up masses that we are now.
That's just very simple, right?
It is. But unpacking it is hard because it's so, what's the word? It's so conditioned that when I say to you, well, who are you underneath all of that? It's hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
How would I know? I've got to unpick 50 years of conditioning. Well, you don't really. It's who would you be if nobody was looking?
Who would I be if no one was looking? I would probably be this like little wood or forest nymph, like out, with I'd probably have like, Lucas would probably disagree right now, but I would have lots of dogs or animals like all around. It'd be like Snow White, right? Who had all those animals? Was it Snow White or whoever helped her? No, Cinderella. Whatever, any character that had animals just all around her, that would be me.
Me too. And it wouldn't matter that you didn't have a job.
No.
See, that's the thing. That's the conditioning, that in order to be worthy people, that somehow we need to serve somebody or make money or produce things. Whereas, if being sitting by the side of a stream playing with fawns and robins and butterflies, why isn't that? Why do we assume that we have to be something grander than that?
I don't know.
I mean, animals don't have jobs.
I know.
Nobody else in the world needs to. I mean, okay, they have dominance and stuff like that, but that's a survival mechanism rather than an egoic thing.
Yeah.
And that's just to sort of keep the pack going or keep order or whatever like that. But individually, animals just are who they are, and you have some animals that are really quite mischievous and maybe not, and really you have animals that are more popular than other animals. I mean, that's certainly true. I mean, even remember that farmer sheep, and it's so obvious to me now, but I remember when Yvonne told me, that sheep make friends, and if you separate them, they get upset, and you're like, well, why wouldn't they? Why would we think a sheep is any different from any other animal?
Yeah.
And I've also told you about the stick insect, and so I think it's Colchester View. There's some zoo, I can't remember, that they have, Chester Zoo, I think it is, and they have some exotic stick insects or something like that, and they're all tree frogs or something, and they scoured the world for a mate for this thing, and she didn't like him. The last stick insect in the world, but I don't like you. I'm sorry. I think it's lovely that we all have why would we assume that a stick insect doesn't have preferences? Of course they do.
Right.
We all have a particular energy around us that either other people like or they don't like.
Yeah.
And that for us, there's a lot of conditioning that causes that, I think. But even if you strip us of all of that, we still all have preferences about what we like and what we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who we are. It's nothing grander than that.
Yeah.
Who you are when nobody's looking. I mean, that's probably a bit simplistic, because I do think that our behaviors run really, really deep. I'm getting a real sort of deja vu thing. Like I can sort of see myself and thinking like there's a third party here. I don't know if I've gone into some sort of channeling mode. You know, because I think there are parts of us that, you know, the conditioning is so deep that it does affect our behavior. But if you could unwrap all of that, I think the closest we'd get to it is if nobody was looking and nobody would ever know what you were doing, what would you do with yourself?
I actually see myself when I was a little girl. And we lived in this rental house and in northwestern Ohio, and it was on like a country highway kind of a thing. And so there was a sign. There was like one of those old school US plastic bubble lit up kind of signs that promoted the mechanic or something that was behind us. But this yard to me felt magical. And so I would sit in this yard and like with dandelions, either the yellow kind, you know, and you rub on the bottom of your chin, or they would be the seed and I would blow them away, or I would find bugs and things like that. And I would just be out there babbling to myself, you know, just actually not actually talking to myself. I was actually talking to everything around me. And that's probably what I would do. I do it now too. When I take a walk with Lucas, just the two of us, we actually don't talk, the two of us. Like I follow what he finds and then he follows what I find. And we just kind of like go, I would just kind of meander probably like that. And I look at all the wildflowers and, you know, what's popping up now and what's not. There's baby deer out in the preserve. And so I'm just, you know, when I see one, I'm like, oh, thanks for letting me see you, you know, that type of a thing. I guess I would just be, I mean, I'm going to label it. I'm just be a dork. I'd just be total dork.
Why is that a dork?
I know, right? I shouldn't label it, but I do.
It's just that you're just appreciating your surroundings. Why does that make you a dork?
I know. Because nobody else does, maybe. Most people, you know, I don't know. Yeah. It's just, it's just interesting to me, this idea of now, like what I'm thinking right now is like this. So I have a couple clients where this theme, I have one client where it's really come up and then it started to come up with this other client, the complexity and the simplicity and the simplicity and the complexity. So like for this one client, there's a real simple theme, but yet the tangles of it are so complex, like you were saying, kind of that type of a thing. So it feels very simple. The moment I step into the preserve, it becomes very simple. It's me and my dog and everything around me. And we're just hanging out and watching to see who all comes forward. Green herons, orioles, whatever kind, you know, birds and stuff like that. And then we, you know, we come home and we start our day again, kind of a thing. And then all the words start coming into play. Yeah.
I think when you look at any sort of disaster or shocking thing or anything big that happens, and you suddenly realize how things can just fall away. I don't think of an example, but it's like it sometimes takes us a crisis to realize that all these things that you're so het up about actually don't matter. It takes something bigger to come along and go, no, and then you're like, all these things that you would otherwise have spent 2 or 3 hours of your day worrying about cease to be important. Those are the moments when you realize what's important. And it, you know, it's typically life and death or health issues or an accident or some, you know, humanitarian disaster or something like that, where you realize that all this stuff that we worry about is pants.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, we experience it on a smaller scale. I think, like if your animal's ill or whatever, like it wouldn't matter what was in your diary. The day before, you'd be making reasons and excuses why you couldn't not do it. You know, oh, I have to do that because it's really, really important. But if you know, you wake up and you know there's something wrong with your animal, they need to go to the vet or something happens, you clearly, you know, and people do this for their children, I assume. I don't know. You know, it gets everything in perspective for you, and things that I think when I separated from my first husband, I've always had all these regimes of how I clean, not how I clean it up, but like just running a household sort of thing. And I did nothing for months, and it was amazing. The world didn't end.
Yeah.
I stopped. I suppose I must have paid rent because nobody threw me out. Like, I literally did the bare minimum. Whereas before, my household admin would have taken a few hours a week. I just stopped doing all of it, and it all worked.
Yeah.
We make so much work for ourselves.
I know. I've been every so many years, like almost every other year, or every couple of years, I get antsy. Like I need to go. I need to go. I must have some, I don't know if it's a nomadic spirit. It might be because I've moved a lot and we love our mobile home because or our RV because we can get in it and drive. And we've often talked about living like a nomadic life and we've got the itch again. It's starting again, both for my husband and myself. So I've been walking around my house going, I can let that go, that go, that go, that go, that go, that go. That. Okay, what all? And we're actually thinking of selling. So our RV's name is Ned for my grandfather. And so we're actually thinking of selling Ned so we can go smaller and have a smaller little thing that we can travel all over the place and just let all this, like I'm looking at my bookshelf. That's going to be the hardest thing is letting go of books because I just love them. But even then, I've got a pile of books downstairs. I'm gonna send to Goodwill this weekend. But it's just like all these things and the clutter. Like even this past weekend, it's been super, super hot here, abnormally hot here. Hello, welcome climate change. We haven't had rain here for several weeks, which is also really strange. Anyway, but I was the first chance I had to plant like my annual flowers and stuff. And it was a long weekend the weekend before, but we were gone. And then we were in Alaska prior to. So this was the first weekend we had, but over 90-degree Fahrenheit heat. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to all weekend, 2 whole days, I'm just going to go slow. I'm going to plant flowers and I'll get done what I get done. And then that's all I'm going to accomplish. I'm not going to worry about keeping the house clean. I'm not going to worry about anything else. We're just going to plant flowers. And I got them planted. And I even took a nap on Sunday and it was wonderful. And I'm like, what are we doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing more than that? I don't know. It's just,
I just want to do less and less and less. I am doing less and I still feel like I'm doing too much.
yeah,
I don't understand it at all. But I just think, well, that, maybe I need it. Don't know.
Yeah. I think so too. I need to do less, even more less. It's hard though. It's just so hard. But this, yeah. But
actually, what's the hardest thing is your fear of judgment from yourself and judgment from Brad.
Yeah.
The other things just seem to take care of themselves. Like I say, when I left my first husband and like fuck knows what I used to do. I suppose I used to buy stuff in bulk, so I had, shopping list food and that, but I didn't buy any food because I was on some stupid diet. I was just never home. I was out drinking most of the time, if I'm honest. And just didn't do anything. World didn't end.
No. World doesn't end. No. It's just, yeah. So for me, that's my thinking right now. Or feeling, I should say, is getting back into that. Huh?
Yeah. And I think that's also about slowing down, that you say, because all our doing and busyness is about proving ourselves in the world one way or the other.
And I also think it's about keeping ourselves apart from ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, the more I do, yes, the more I fulfill all of these. I'm like picturing the Wicked Witch of the West on the bicycle, which in the black and white part of Wizard of Oz, like like I'm trying to go so fast to prove that those negative beliefs aren't really true. And at the same time, the other fallout of that is that I disconnect from who I actually am. And the more I can do that, the more I don't have to actually get in touch with this, because I'm also conditioned that to be in touch with who I am is not a good thing. So it's all of that. It's all of that to me. And when the more
So
you
explain that. What do you mean about being in touch with who you are?
So I'll explain this way. So the more I slow down, the more I'm sitting with just me. And that can be uncomfortable.
And what is uncomfortable? The need to do, or does emotion come up?
What's uncomfortable is realizing, and this is me actually feeling it right now, is realizing how far away from me I've gotten. And there's a sadness in that. And there's if only I hadn't lost that connection, which I realize the human journey is about. Right now it is losing that connection and coming back to it. So I know that there's still some grief in, oh, there you are. I've missed you. I wish I hadn't been so far away from you for so long. There's that aspect of it too.
Okay, but you say you don't know who you are, and yet you seem to have amazing clarity over that.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know if I know who I'm at the part right now where I realize I've been doing all of these hand gestures and jazz hands or whatever, just to like keep me away from myself. And so these are starting to slow, and I'm realizing this is the emotion that's coming up.
Okay, that's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at, is the emotion, because what I'm doing with Eva is, because my spiritual philosophy very much is law of attraction, and like, don't go there with the emotion, because we can all dig up emotion if we go looking for it. And but I tried to balance that with when you have to go looking for stuff to resolve it so that you can move forward, which is what we do in the coaching and all of that. But the what I'm doing with Eva at the moment is all about feeling emotion, you see, and that comes up when you slow down.
Yeah.
And I have, I'm week 5 now. Thought I was doing okay keeping up with the practices, and then this last one is to sort of sit with that emotion and examine it and feel it, and I can't, not because I can't sit there, but the emotion disappears. So she's like, well, okay, so how do you feel when and then of course I start to panic, like, oh my god, I'm never going to get, if I can't, and she's like, well, okay, sit with that emotion then. But I just can't. It's just, it literally, like, I was really upset about something. I was like, oh, all right, I can do it now. It's that time to work with it. Gone. But she says that's all another defense mechanism. I just have to keep at it.
Yeah.
Because we are taught to suppress those emotions all the time. So there's lots and lots of little workarounds going on all the time. So I've got this written down here, actually, not while you are watching, which is, she was sort of saying that'll be sort of what your emotions will do, like, okay, so we're coming up, and you're trying to connect to the part of you that feels that way without judgment, just allowing it to be expressed. And then the emotion goes, oh, she's watching, no, and that's it, because it's not safe, because we've been taught that it's not safe to show our emotion. There's a lot of stuff in there, but women especially, well, no, that's not true, because men are also suppressed, but a lot of what women feel is, we are unable to express it because it's not welcome.
Yeah.
As a child and as an adult and through everything. And so when you go, all right, okay, let's bring it on, and your body goes, what?
Yeah, it's like we have to redevelop those synapses.
Yeah.
Neural pathways.
And trust as well, trust that it's okay, because a lot of women, well, I'm saying women, it's not all women on the course at all, but a lot of people who suppress emotion like that, they, you can put them in touch with it, but they actually are scared, because if I connect with this fury and rage over everything that I've suppressed all these years, where's it going to end? Am I going to end up in a loony bin somewhere? If I poke that bear,
yeah,
what's going to happen?
Yeah. That's interesting. You said poke that bear. I have another client that was a phrase that came up. The when I was even thinking, as you were talking about being in touch with those emotions and whatnot, I'm even thinking generationally, if we talk generational trauma, we were even burned or killed if we were in touch with any of this aspect of who we are. So there's so many layers on top of that. So no wonder I'm terrified. But it just feels actually so interesting when I sit in the heart space and begin to connect to that true self. It actually feels so comforting. It's so wonderful. It's so easy. It feels way more powerful actually than when I stay up here and rationalize everything. I was even thinking about self-defense the other day, not physical self-defense, but when somebody comes at you and attacks you verbally with something, and then you try to defend yourself. Because I was picturing a couple different scenarios of late, and I was just like, okay, well, in this situation, well, I would say that. And then my true self was saying, well, just sit with it and realize that, which we have talked about this many, many times, is that they're coming at me from their own wound. They're not coming at me because of me. And so when you just sit with it and not realize that that's not your thing to take on, that's really hard to do, because I realize as I say all that, then they're going to think that I'm weak, but that's still their issue. It's still not mine, but it's,
why do we care
yeah,
if somebody thinks we're weak?
yeah. But being able to be in tune with our true selves in those moments and stay there, that place of love, I'll say, and you see all them coming at you from any of that is, their wounds. You don't have to take any of that on. And they just showed me something, and then it poof went away. The guides. I'm like, where did that go? It was something really wise. They showed it to me, and it was like poof, it's gone away. I don't know. Maybe at some point that helps kind of shift the conversation, but that's not up to me to decide. I don't know what they showed me. It was really brilliant. I'm like, oh, and then I went to go grab it. And they're like, poof, not yet. I don't know. But never mind.
But the whole point of all of this is, if you didn't care what other people thought, you would be able to hold true to what you wanted, to what you felt.
No.
Because like you say, if you sit with something and you go, I know that you're attacking me because of your own pain and not because of me. But then it's like, yeah, but if you can get past of wanting to kick someone's ass,
Yeah.
and go, okay, so they don't, they're not attacking me, this is their own pain. Okay, well, I'll say nothing then. And then your ego goes, yeah, but then they'll think you're weak, but then they'll attack you, and again, well, if you didn't care what they thought, if all you had to worry about was what you thought, bingo, you'd be like, okay, I'll let it go.
Yeah. I'm reminded of, did you watch Star Trek, kind of? Movies, at least? No? Okay.
I probably watched them, yeah.
I never really watched the series, the Captain Kirk original one. That's a little tad before my time, but I know enough of it to be dangerous, only because I would watch the movies.
That's a bit rude, because it's not before my time.
Well, no, I mean, it wasn't so much.
It's all right. Go on.
No, we're the same age-ish, so yeah. Never mind. Anyway, but I would watch the movies, and I would watch the new series like Deep Space Nine and Next Generation and whatnot. But Spock and the Vulcans were always more. They're to me like the most in touch with their souls and like that's like they're elevated. Is what I'm trying to say. And so that was always to me the role model for elevated. But at some point too, they become a little bit more. Everybody's not so much the same, but there's like a quality to them. Like they're even keel. They're not flatline, but they're just like even keeled, to the point where they don't have like these different personalities, because they're not trying to do all of this. Yeah. So I don't know why I was thinking about that, but that's kind of where I need to be more Spock-like.
Well, no, because that again goes back to like what I said about the journey of souls. Is that we all think that that if we take away that reaction to emotion that we feel, that we're then going to become dull and life won't have any interest or exciting because there's no joy in it. And it's like and this is sort of what Eva's teaching, not in this class but in the previous one, is like it's not about not feeling emotion. You're always going to feel emotion. What you don't do is turn that into something.
Oh.
You're not going to stop. So when you feel emotion, you acknowledge that made me sad, right? And feel the sadness, as opposed to that made me sad, you made me feel this way, this is your fault, escalating into an argument, or worse, about that made me, I don't know, I feel really bad, I don't know why I feel bad, and it must be because they hate me. It's stories. That's what makes us unhappy. You're always going to feel sad, joy, happiness, all those things. They are emotions, and they are the variety of life. You're not going to stop feeling them. It's what do you do with them, and whether you can actually experience them and acknowledge them, as opposed to either stuffing them down or diverting them into something else, or blaming other people for how you feel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because I don't think it's not the same as Dr. Spock, because they don't have emotion.
Oh, that's right. Well, that goes that theory.
No, but that is, a lot of people are afraid of that. And I mean, I have people who think I have become more dull because I don't get angry about things anymore. I can, but it is,
Yeah.
And there is well, I was going to say there is a time and a place for getting angry about things, but there probably isn't. But I mean, I find it like jokes, and there is certain types of humor. I do struggle with that, about not being allowed to make jokes about certain things because it's inappropriate or whatever, or angry joke, people ranting and stuff like that. I mean, I still find some of that funny. I don't know if that's just because I'm spiritually immature. But there is this idea that if you, I don't know where I'm going with all this, but that that somehow with spiritual maturity you just become very, very dull. And actually I don't think it is like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that either. Although I too have been recently accused of that as well, because I won't engage in fixating on someone else and their problems or issues or what is being judged. I won't do it. It's not a good conversation to me. It doesn't even feel good. Excuse me, I feel icky, and it doesn't even interest me. So, and I'm like, you used to love to do that. Well, that was before. Yeah, that's a while ago. Yeah. None of that stuff is interesting to me anymore. But yeah, I've been accused of that too of late, that I'm dull that way. Or that, oh, here you go again, spouting your love. Stand in a place of love. Are you standing in a place of fear? Is one thing I say. Like, is that coming from a place of fear or love? Oh, who cares, Julie? Blah blah. I'm like, no, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, maybe getting in touch with your true self isn't as, I don't feel as scared as I did at the beginning of this conversation.
You don't know what you're going to find, Julie. That's the thing.
Say what?
You are. I said, you don't know what you're going to find.
True.
No, you are. What you're going to find is the little Julie that gave everybody a Valentine's card. How bad can that be?
Can I say, though, too, that I do find it interesting that the friend group, to a degree, like the people around me, have really shifted too. This community that we're part of, I can jump on Zoom with you and we can talk in this language, or even in Monica, or anybody else, our guests, Danielle, Kent, Karen, Vicky, we just jump on, we just have these conversations, and we're like all understood. And then when I go to people like from my past, say what?
When you get out into the real world.
Yeah. Then it's like I have to watch. I find myself having to watch what I say because I'm not understood as much anymore. And I found that kind of interesting too.
I found it the worst for me. Well, I suppose it happened at the same time. So I was going to say COVID as well, because during COVID, the only company I had was all this spiritual lot. So I was a very changed person.
Yeah.
I came out the other side because, as you say, it's become part of my everyday language.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just,
Um,
yes. COVID was for me too, because that's when I lost my job and all of that type of stuff. And it's interesting because people will say to me, don't you want to do stuff? Like, don't you want to go out and do stuff or, whatever. I'm like, I've done stuff with people all day. It's all of you guys, clients and animals and all this.
Yeah, because someone said to me, and me being a sensitive soul as I am, someone said, oh yeah, you always have a really serious conversation with Kate, because a car share when we were driving. And I was like, oh God, am I really dull? Like, because I don't talk about shit anymore. I don't, it does tend to be deeper conversations about your soul's purpose, where you're going, what you want out of life, and I don't try really hard not to lecture people, but conversations always seem to end up that way. Now, whether it's, I don't know. And then, but she was appalled when I said, oh gosh, am I really dull? She's like, no, not at all. And it's like, but it's become a thing that getting in a car with Kate means it's going to be like a serious conversation about something profound.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to be that person? But then my true self is what it is. If I don't sit there banging on about my shit, they must bring it up. Like, I don't bring it up because I'm very conscious that this is not my group of people who I know, so I don't bring it up. So they must tap into it somehow.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to.
So there's a tip for you. If you see me at a party, stay away.
Or just be in the moment and do nothing with you at the party.
Yeah. Party. God, the thought of it makes me feel sick these days. Party? What? Leave my house?
I know. That's how I feel too. Leave my house? Why? I have everything I need right here.
Oh, it's funny. I think that's a wrap, Julie.
I do too. Well, thank you for helping me talk through this, what I was already.
Another tedious and serious conversation.
Yes. What's funny is I can see how, like, a workaround for me was trying to make something complex that's actually really simple in an effort to keep myself from my true self. Like, I can just see, like, that's just my Aslan's sitting over here going, and kind of shaking his mane, like, oh, Julie, like, with all love and sincerity that he is, it's just at the same time, he's also laughing. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, with that being said, and Aslan saying, okay, we'll wrap up this episode of Making Like Two Humans Being. I'm Julie. Here with me, as always, is Kate Foggo. We are both soul level animal communicators and soul level intuitive coaches. And as you can see, even though we're intuitive, we are still human and we're struggling with the human existence. So join us each Friday for another exciting brand new conversation about what it means to be intuitive and a human at the same time. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us on our own channels. All that's in the notes below. Please feel free to hit that subscribe button so that other people can find us and share us with your friends and family and all that good stuff. And we will see you next week on Making Like Two Humans Being. Thanks for being here.